It is a bitter little world indeed. One of the most memorable lines in Noir, courtesy of Daniel Fuchs and Joan Bennett. In fact, we've used it for years as the catchphrase of my Film Noir Foundation, which rescues and restores lost and damaged films. There was no rescue for Johnny Muller, however. In Noir, you can steal another man's life, but you can't escape your fate. The shadows are always closing in, especially if the cameraman is John Alton. I've noted this before when we've shown other movies he photographed, but it bears repeating. John Alton rarely worked for big studios, preferring the latitude he was given on lower budget productions. He typically was the highest paid member of the crew, including the director, and he earned it by being so well organized and so fast, he ended up saving producers lots of money. He rarely, if ever, made use of the overhead lighting grids typical on studio sets. Instead, he'd light scenes with practicals, lights that have an actual source within the scene, while deploying a few mobile key lights when he wanted a dramatic effect. His approach, needless to say, did not make Alton popular with union crews, all those grips and gaffers who got paid by the hour. Left to his own devices, which many directors were happy to do, Alton could shave days off a production schedule while creating a visually stunning movie. Hollow Triumph is something of an anomaly on the resume of screenwriter Daniel Fuchs. Plot gimmicks and risky twists were not really his forte. If Fuchs had a specialty, it was writing compassionately about characters struggling to survive in a world full of crime and corruption. It's a place he literally came from, growing up on rough Brooklyn streets, and it's the world he wrote about in a trio of excellent novels that earned him a crack at Hollywood money. Summer in Williamsburg, Homage to Blenholt, and Low Company were all books that drew on his Depression-era experiences. Fuchs always wrote with empathy for hard-scrabble characters and their bitter struggles, whether it was backstage melodramas like The Hard Way, classic noirs like Hollow Triumph, Crisscross, and Panic in the Streets, or a musical noir hybrid like the dynamite Doris Day picture Love Me or Leave Me, for which he won an Oscar. Fuchs's early literary work went unnoticed for years, but when it was rediscovered, John Updike, one of America's biggest literary lions, declared, "Nobody else writes like Daniel Fuchs. I think of him as a natural, a poet who never had to strain after a poetic effect, a magician who made magic look almost too easy." Well, thanks to this praise, Fuchs was hailed, retroactively, as one of the great Jewish-American novelists of the 1930s, and critics started bemoaning that his talent had been squandered in Hollywood. But Fuchs brushed it all off, commenting later in life that, "I liked it in Hollywood and stayed on. I found the life most agreeable," words a serious novelist is never supposed to say. Now, I've heard from more than a few people that Paul Henreid not only produced Hollow Triumph, he directed much of it himself, which really isn't a surprise. While he continued to act, Henreid developed into a reliable and prolific director, making features like A Woman's Devotion and Dead Ringer, a pair of Beat Generation movies, Live Fast, Die Young, and Girls on the Loose, and lots of TV shows, including dozens of episodes of Alfred Hitchcock Presents. In fact, the producer of that show, Joan Harrison, was the godmother of Henreid's daughter, Monica. And I hope you've seen the lovely tribute to her dad that Monica made for TCM. She's working on a documentary about her father's life, which I'm greatly looking forward to. Now for the bad news. I go in the deep freeze starting next week as Noir Alley goes on hiatus, making way for Summer Under the Stars. But keep checking in on our Facebook page and Twitter feed. Who knows? I might get lonely and drop in for a chat. I'll be back the first week of September, ready to roll right on through the rest of the year with a mix of crime classics, rarities, and a few TCM premieres. Until then, I'll see you in the shadows.